start with the budget workshop itself. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to work from. Okay. I don't know if Andre is on yet. Basically, I think the police manual issue is the first thing that's on. And the agreement, as I understand it, between Andre and Chief Smith was to extend the deadline and until the end of January or until February 1st. And Chief Smith is working with college on a test on the manual to make sure that employees have the opportunity to be tested so that we can, verify that they have read the manual and also understand the manual. And so they got together and decided to move this to the 1st of February. So I don't believe we need any kind of special document for that. And I don't know if it's illegal. I'm trying to see if we're legal yet in terms of, I see Ms. Crockett on here. So I think we are legal. Mr. Etherly, Ms. Ford, myself, that at least. So that makes us, gives us a quorum. So if anybody wants to make a motion to extend the deadline on the police procedures manual to be effective until February 1st instead of January 1st, this would be a good time to make that motion or discuss it. Neither person is on yet. If you want to wait till Andre gets on, we can do that too.
Romero, don't you think someone needs to, if you have a quorum, does the roll need to be called and all of that?
We can do it for good measure. Miss Sandy, you want to call the roll?
Okay. St. Columbia, Franklin, Crockett.
Yeah.
Davis, Forward, Etherly.
Here.
Ms. Ford. Ms. Ford is muted. Okay, that gives us 3 present, 3 absent. And this is Mayor should make the 4th.
Say that one more time.
I said Mayor Smith, you'd make the 4th.
Forward here.
Oh,
Hi, Ford.
okay, good.
Hi.
Okay,
Yeah,
I got
so we are now officially legal if you do take any action on the items that are on the agenda. And that the first thing where we were was police policy manual approval of an extension from January 1st to February 1st, which was the recommendation of both Mr. Valley and Chief Smith. Does anybody want to make that motion or discuss it? Or do you want to wait till Andre gets on here? I think he's going to be on here in about 10 minutes. Okay, not hearing any discussion. We'll move on to the 2021 budget, and Derek and I and everybody, we're all here for that discussion. It's a budget workshop, so we'll open up discussion about the 2021 budget.
And that, I'd like to start off just by asking the council, we've had a couple of weeks to look over the proposed budget that the mayor submitted. And I'm open to, like I said, I'm here to assist the city council in coming up with an acceptable budget that they can adopt. And so I'm just opening it up for any changes that anyone would suggest or any discussion that anyone has about any changes that they would want to make, and any questions about any of the line items that were included in the mayor's proposed budget.
I have a question for your clarification, Derek.
Yes, ma'am.
If you'll clarify for me, we
Yes, ma'am.
talked about the federal the change in the federal minimum wage going from $10 an hour to $11 an hour. And you said some people who were making that step up to $11, that was considered a raise for them. So does that mean that they were not given a 3% cost of living? They were just giving the step up?
No,
from
ma'am.
change in the federal minimum?
In the mayor's proposed budget, those people getting the minimum wage did not receive the 3% cost of living. I had, me and you had a discussion about that before. I kind of can see it both ways. I can see it is a cost of living adjustment, and maybe they should be included. And I can also see the way we did it, that since that increase was mandated, and anyone that was already making above minimum wage, their wage increase wasn't mandated. So, we're not obligated to give those guys any type of salary increase. Just thought it might be fair to give it to those people that weren't receiving the minimum wage increase. But I can certainly see it from both sides. And so that's something that the city council may want to contemplate, but that 3% cost of living increase, cost of living adjustment is not included for the people that got the minimum wage increase. In the mayor's
I have a
proposal.
question.
Yes, Ms. Clark.
Okay, so what you're telling me is just because it was mandated, these are the people who, is it mandated that we give anybody a 3% cost of living raise?
No, ma'am, the 3% is just, and so it was our idea that because they would leave some people out that wouldn't get raised. And so we thought it would be fair to those who didn't get the minimum wage increase to at least try to get them a 3% cost of living increase.
Okay, they are already making more than minimum wage, so now the people who were only making minimum wage, and because it's mandated by the state that it goes up to $11, I'm like, Ms. Ford, I just don't think that that's fair to them. They're already the lowest paid people on the totem pole, so why wouldn't they get it? If we
Well,
were
that's
gonna give it to anyone.
Yes, ma'am. But like I said, that minimum wage increase is a 10% increase in their wages, and the 3%, of course, and we suggested a 3% increase. But the people that are getting the minimum wage on average I think 88 cents. Some are getting the whole dollar, some are getting like 60 cents. So on average, it comes out to be about 88-cent increase in pay. So on average, it comes out to be about 8% or 90%, close to 90% increase. I mean, a 9% increase for the minimum wage increase recipients, and and of course 3% for everybody else proposed in the budget.
Again, that 3% increase equates to how much?
Let me check right quick. You just want the 3% by itself? Let me see.
Right now, yes.
I think the total, hold on a second. Let me get to another spreadsheet. If you can bear with me for a second, Ms. Ford. It'll take me a second to pull up this other spreadsheet.
That's fine.
But I'm looking, I think off the top of my head, well, don't let me do that. Hold on a second. Okay. I had some of this stuff pulled out already. Okay, the minimum wage only is 111,000. $111,198, and the cost of living and the minimum wage together would be $218,558. So the cost of living increase would be around approximately $107,000, and the minimum wage would be 111,000.
And Mr. Turner,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
guess I wanted the 80. You said 88 cent. That's what the it averages about the minimum wage going from $10 to $11 for a person. Tell me how much the 3% averages.
The 3% averaged about 34 cents. Let me see. I would have to. I would have to guess. I don't have anything that pulls that out, but I think what I was looking at, if I don't have it somewhere else, I think it came out to be about 44 cents on average for the cost of living.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Craig.
Where do we propose to get this money from?
For the cost of living, I mean, for the increases.
The cost of living. I know it's mandated by the state that we do the minimum wage increase, but I'm talking about the 3%. Where do we get this money from?
It's going to come from normal operating revenue, city sales tax, franchise fees, sanitation fees, the normal revenues, that operating revenues, franchise fees.
Mr. Turner,
Yes, Mr. Columbia, St. Columbia.
there's, what you're saying is there are no new revenues figured into any of this?
No, none. There were no new revenues necessary to.
Out of the general revenues that we're presently getting?
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions, Mr. Turner? Or discussion?
And other than the budget, we still have some, if they want to consider the overtime, to appropriate additional, to make additional overtime appropriations for the police and fire department. I think last week, the total amount needed, the additional amount needed was 32,000 for the fire department, and 22,000 for the police department. So we have an additional for December, since payroll has been processed already, we have an additional 8,000 or almost 9,000 for the fire department, and an additional 19,000 for the police department that needs appropriating. I asked, suggested that we get I don't know what happened to the poll. I don't know if the fire chief or the police chief are on the line. I think Mr. Franklin had requested that they be here. So I'm not sure if the mayor passed it along or not. Or if they are on the line or not. But those are the additional overtime that was paid in December. $8,692 for the fire department and $22,972 for the police department. And so that needs so an additional appropriation of $45,068 for the police department, $18,869 for the fire department. As of now, I don't foresee any changes being made because this is the last payroll of the year. And so it appears right now that the police department would end the year with $872,000 in overtime. They had 225,000 last year, so they did come up $25,000 short. And the fire department looks like they're gonna have $183,252 in overtime. And they had $227,687 last year. So they are decreased their overtime by $44,000. And so the fire department did a real good job over the last several months. Theirs were kind of high at the beginning of the year. So they did a great job towards the end of the year. And the fire department and the police department were doing really well at the beginning of the year. And theirs kind of went up the last few months. So, but that's where we stand on overtime now.
And let me say that the real question was, why did we have an uptick in overtime in this last pay period? And the reason, which was already speculated about last time, was the Travis Wallace incident. And, you know, the fire department, even though this was a police department thing, the fire department here went way beyond a call of duty to support their brethren in blue. And several of them remembered, you know, when we lost the 3 firemen back in the 90s, I think it was, here at the BPS plant. And so it was an all hands on deck situation. And so we did have a lot more overtime than normal. That's all I was going to say.
I guess I'm trying to understand. Was that because of the sea of blues? Is that that was it? The overtime was encompassing those type of things. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
Yeah, of course, the people in the Sea of Blue were from other locations and jurisdictions, but the people here in the fire and police department both were, you know, not to mention that we, by definition, literally, unfortunately, we had, of course, one officer down, and then we had, whenever you have an officer engagement like that, you have to have an investigation, which is still ongoing. And so it affected a couple of other officers. And so that hurt our manpower too. So you have that issue, but also just, it put a lot more. Of course, this is not anything they didn't want to do. They wanted to do it, and I wasn't going to stand in their way. This was not a normal circumstance. In addition to that, I think any reasonable person can look at the numbers that Derek just gave you and demonstrate, even though this has been a very tough year, especially for the police department because of the curfew and COVID and all the rest of that. Even with all of that, both departments have done an excellent job of working on their overtime this year. So, and of course, this was an exceptional circumstance.
Mr. Mayor, Joe St. Columbia, with the listening to what's been going on and all, and understanding the overtime, the management has been very careful about that, I think, in both the police and fire department. And what do you need from us tonight? Just to approve the overtime differences there? Mr. Turner, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I think you guys did something maybe back in September or October. And so the last meeting I asked for the increases for November for the police and fire. Just like I said, Mr. Franklin wanted some additional information. I don't know in particular from the police chief or the fire chief, but he wanted some additional information. And so since then, we've processed payroll, and so I have some totals for December as well. And so, like I mentioned, for the total fees for the fire department would be $18,870 basically, and for the police department would be $45,069, and that would be enough to cover the total of 183,252.19 for the fire department and $872.10 for the police department.
And we've already
And-
paid this money. That's correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I remember at one point that Mr. Etherly made the comment a while ago that I agree with him that the overtime, we needed proof that the overtime was needed and that people weren't abusing it. And I really can say for the fire department, they've cut theirs down significantly. I mean, they've cut theirs down by about 75% over the last few months. And as far as the police department is concerned, their overtime was low for the most part of the year, and over the last several months, theirs has increased for the last few months. But certainly we can justify over the last few months,
Yeah.
especially for the fire department. And the mayor would know more about the police operations than I would. But I feel safe with those that both departments overtime was justified for the most part.
Well, I have no problem approving it as far as I'm concerned.
Derek, can you put that in the form or give them the form of the motion that would be in
Yes, sir.
terms of the
You need that in the
numbers?
motion. I'll also move that we approve the appropriations.
Appropriations for the fire department in an amount of $18,870, and appropriations for the police department in the amount of $45,069.
I so move.
There's a motion of Mr. St. Columbia to approve the overtime for the police and fire department as stated. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Etherly seconds the motion. Any other discussion or comments or questions? If not, Ms. Sandy, call the roll.
Franklin, Davis, Etherly,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Crockett,
Yes.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
4 yes, 2 absent.
And I'd also like to add that the budgeting for departments, overtime in particular, includes the amount for their schedule, and else we know that's going to happen. I think that's somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000, and I think we scheduled 40,000. I think we put in an additional 60 for them to the call outs, the fire call outs, call out to the fires. And so because of the last few months, the overtime that they've been getting over the last few months, I feel comfortable that this time I really feel comfortable that $100,000 should be more than enough for the fire department, the way Chief Brown has been managing the department. And I know in the past we've had difficulties trying to budget for both departments. But I feel very comfortable with the amount that's budgeted for the fire department. I think they can even come below that amount. And the police department may have some other issues with staffing issues, being short-staffed and all. But as far as the fire department is concerned, I think the overtime that's budgeted so far is pretty good.
I'd just add what Derek said. I mean, one of the things we ought to be proud of this year is that I think we did finally we certainly began to get control of our overtime, which I know my first year, no matter what I tried to do, it just seemed to have a life of its own. And it included a lot of yelling and pounding tables in the background and private. It didn't seem to make it much difference. This year, it has. Well, everything we've done has. So, the leadership of the both entities. Not that we're there yet, but I think we made a really good start this year. You can see it in the numbers, and among other financial news that has been relatively good, I think that's one of them. So they are to be commended, and let me commend Mr. Turner because he has been primarily the one working with them on overtime. So he deserves to be commended. So thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
Any other issues, Derek? Or any other budget? I mean, we're still on the budget. 2020 budget. So any other questions?
I have a question, and this is
Yes, ma'am.
concerning what is it, Public Works and the what was the name supposed to be changed to for the people that's right up under him?
Deputies. So he would be the public works director, and the people under him would be deputy director. So
Okay, on the
three
deputy
deputies.
directors for the street and sanitation.
Yes, ma'am.
What's budgeted in the budget? Because I'm not looking at mine right now, and I'm sorry for that, and I can't remember. But what's budgeted in there for them? Because I really go ahead, dear.
As far as the budget is concerned, there aren't budgets for those particular positions. When I was covered with the budget, I budgeted for the positions that were currently in the state, which was the landfill, general manager, foreman, and sanitation.
Okay, and my question is, how much is budgeted in the budget for the street and sanitation foremen, as they're called as of today?
Proposed budget, it's 30. The proposed budget is $34,445.
Okay, so and this is me, I don't know about any, but I would like to see that line item changed to what is the amount that you have to pay someone where they'll be salary and they won't get overtime anymore?
I think it's 35.
No, it's a little more than that. Indeed. 35 or 45.
I think it's 35 to be where you would be exempt under the federal guidelines from overtime. I think that's let me look at the proposed pay ordinance that because I think I included it in 35,568. That's the federal minimum.
Okay, so when we were discussing that before, it was more than that, because when we were talking about putting people on salary at the fire department and police department, it was like 45 to keep from having to pay overtime.
No, that was, you remember a couple of years ago, they had that big issue when Jay was still the mayor, but that's when they had it up there that high, but they had a stay and all of that stuff. Maybe Don understands the legalese about that, but they had this big stay, and they didn't do that initial plan that they had come up with a few years ago. And so they lowered that rate from 40-something thousand down to 35,000. Because it used to be 24,000. So they did move from 24 to 35.
And that's the
they
amount you pay people that won't get overtime. If they're
That's the
on
minimum.
salary and making 30. Okay, if you could put this in there and just scratch through, because I know we're not gonna pass a budget tonight, but I would like to see the street and sanitation, the foreman's put in at 45.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, that's just a minimum. So, you know, as long as it's something above that, that's fine. Okay, I'm making a note of it.
In other words, we're going to salary those people, and that way they can't draw any overtime.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir.
That's the general consensus of doing that.
Yes, sir. Because if you, and I don't know if you have it before you, Mr. Turner, but if you look at the rate of pay for the last 3 years for those two people with the overtime, they're making more than the 45.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I saw it. I got that information. And I knew it was a little bit more above their base salary, what they were getting. I just didn't realize it was that much. So I can see that if you're going to cut out, take away any overtime, you don't want to cut their pay.
Well, they're in a management capacity, so giving them a salary instead of hourly wage would be the way to go. I think that'd be the way to do that.
Okay.
And this is just me on the one for the landfill. Is any way that can be? Well, I would like to see that at 45 too.
Okay, you can put it in the
'Cause they're
budget. Is
out.
that I don't know.
Say that again.
I mean, okay. I mean, I can put it in the budget as that. I don't know about the legal thing about it, but I can make a budget for it.
The idea is to salary those people since they're managing, and
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I understand that, but all of these positions are going to be titled the same. We are actually taking out the general manager's position and making it the director or whatever you call it. I can't never remember what you're saying. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
what's the
But
title?
in two situations, you would be actually increasing somebody's pay, and in one situation, you would be decreasing their pay.
Well, and this is my personal opinion. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I feel if they're going to be have the same titles, and I think that the people in the street, the sanitation, that they do as much work, and they've been here for, I know one of them been here 20 plus years, and I just feel like we should treat people equally.
Is this, Ms. Quack, in anticipation of the name change? This is how you want to see the budget proceed, anticipating that the name change, they will, that the
Yes.
public works. Okay, I got you.
Yes.
How would you like to see it in I guess it doesn't matter in the budget, does it? What title it is, because those positions are going to still be the same positions.
No, I think that the
So-
line item should read whatever they are, because they are no longer foremans, and it's not a general manager anymore. So I think the line item should reflect what their position is actually titled.
Okay. Okay, that is noted. Is there anyone else with any changes that they can think of right now?
I'm good with it.
Do you guys want to have any discussion about Like I said, Ms. Ford brought up a good point. I told you know what my rationale was about it, but she did make a good point about the 3% cost of living. Or are you guys satisfied with the ones that are getting it right now? Or would you like some more time to think about it?
Well, me personally, I think that we need to revisit that because I'm with Ms. Ford on the part about just because something was mandated, don't mean that they shouldn't get their cost of living increase. It's not like they're getting the 3%. I understand it's gonna average out to a little more, but when you really think about it, they're being penalized because they were not making minimum wage at first. How many people do we have how many people do you know offhand? How many people this is gonna affect that go from 10 whatever to the $11?
Think that was, let me look, 44 people. 35 and, 35 without general fund payroll and 9 people in the water department. So it'd be 44 total. The 45, we had a new hire earlier this year. I mean, a couple of months ago.
And a lot of them aren't new hires. And especially when you talk about the water department, there's some that have been there for years and they're just going from minimum from $10 to $11 per hour. Apparently they must be doing something right. They've been here that long.
Yes.
Go ahead. You were gonna say something?
Oh, no, ma'am. I was agreeing with you. That's all.
So, you know, it doesn't say, and then you have these other exorbitant increases of whatever you call them merit. Well, somebody didn't look at some of these people have been here 3 and 5 and 7 years, and they're going from $10 to $11. So I would say that they need that 3% also.
And, another thing to consider is that, you know, that little gap. I had kind of, I mean, you know, the little gap between people that are getting an increase now, the minimum wage people are going to be this much more closer to the people that didn't get the minimum wage increase. I looked at trying to give everybody a $1 increase, but that was just too much to, I mean, we couldn't afford to give everybody a $1. Let me see if I have that number. I don't have it right in front of me, but that was just a little bit too much to give everybody the $1. So that was my way of trying to make a compromise.
So to support
But
I was just going to
certainly
support what you said. The people that you're giving who are already above minimum wage, but not that much, you give them a 3% increase. You give those who are getting a $1 increase plus 3%. Now, the people who just got to 3% are going to say, well, that's not fair. I've been here longer than they have. And now they're making as much as I am. So this thing you never get off of this merry-go-round. At the end of the day, you know, the minimum wage is real money. We pay it. It's mandated, but we still pay it, just like it would be any raise. The 3% is real money. We pay it. It comes out. So it's a basically, you have to look at what we can afford and what's the most equitable way to distribute that among all the employees. And I can just tell you, as soon as people this happened last year, and we didn't give any COLAs last year. But the people that got the minimum wage increase because of the law were now making about what the people who had already been here but were above minimum wage to begin with. And they resented it because they had more experience, had been here longer, and so forth and so on. So this thing never stops as far as that goes. It has to, the wall that it hit has to be what we can and can't afford and what's equitable within that, whether, you know, that we can't do the same raise for everybody because the mandate is $1 for minimum wage. So they have to get that. We have to give it, but it's coming out of our money. It's not coming from the state government, the federal government. And then we do the 3% on top of that. Then now they're making almost as much as the people who just got the 3% and no wage increase, if that makes sense.
Well, what I'm saying is, we, we actually have some people who have been working here 10 to 15 years who are only making less than minimum wage. Mean the new minimum wage that are making less than $11. So what I'm saying, I just think it needs to be relooked at. And I understand what you're saying about the people who've been here, but we got some people who haven't been here 2 or 3 years that's making a lot more money than people who have been here 10 to 12 years.
Well,
We can
Ms.
look at
Crockett, yeah, I mean, I can do anything you want me to kind of pull together, calculate. Like I said, I think I did some different scenarios, and like I said, it's a lot of money, but I can try to see what I can pull together, kind of give you guys an idea of how much it costs.
Let me jump in here and say this. Please don't take my, I got a lot of thoughts, but don't take my silence as being agreement or disagreement. I'm at home and my heat is out right now. My power is going, as they work on it, because it's being worked on, my power is going off and on. And so
Okay.
I'm trying to keep up, but sometimes I can't express my thoughts in the middle of this. So anyway, I have some questions. I would like to know specifically, I think it's always about money. Can we afford to do it or can we not afford to do it? And who's impacted? Because as Ms. Crockett is saying, we have people. Who are those people? And can we get specifics on who we're talking about? If there's one or two individuals who are negatively impacted, we can take a look at that. But just as a general purpose, general principle, you know, we got to come down on one side or another. But like I said, I'll if I have any specific thoughts or questions that I don't get to include in this meeting, I'll email them out. I do have some, and I'm trying to keep notes when I can. I'll send an email and ask a question before our next meeting.
Okay. But like I said, I did do the dollar increase for everybody, and that was kind of out of reach. And so we may be able to come to some other compromise. I don't know if we give it to everybody, maybe it'll have to come down a little bit. I'm not sure, but like I said, we still have to balance the budget. We only have a limited amount of revenue that's projected. So we, like Mr. Etherly said, we still have to take that into consideration if we can afford it or not.
Well, and the other thing is we've talked about the city hall a lot is I wasn't here then, but I understand we the last time we did a COLA, at some point down the road, we had to stop it because we couldn't afford it. So, you know, we don't want to get in a point where we have to take it back. It'd be better not to offer it at all than have to do that. So it ultimately is what we afford, and we have to start with what we have to do, which is mandated, which is the minimum wage. And then from there, what can we afford to do that seems the most equitable? There might be a better way to do it. I'm not saying that. It's just, I think we just got to make sure if we say it's going to be something that we carry it through the year, and that we're prepared to carry it through the year. I'd hate to have to offer a COLA, if I start paying a COLA and then take it back halfway through the year. That's something I really don't want to have to face. I don't think any of us do.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that I feel with the amount of the COLA and the minimum wage, I feel very comfortable that we wouldn't have to do that at the level that was in the proposed budget.
Okay. Other questions, comments about the budget? Wait for just a minute. Okay. I guess we'll go back to the police manual in a minute. Mr. Etherly, while you still got power, do we want to talk about the crime committee?
Oh, well, I'm on my telephone, so I don't expect, I'll go out to my car if I have to keep it charged. I'm just saying, while I have vision right now. I would simply say I I've had Councilman Franklin, and I've had Ms. Crockett and Ms. Davis, who have volunteered to serve on the committee. And I've had 2 citizens who I've spoken to who've also agreed to serve. And I have 2 others who are considering. So I didn't want to give the names of all until they've all agreed. My anticipation is that after the first of the year, we'll have our first meeting. No date set yet, but I'll do that after I get confirmations from the other 2 individuals. And then so at the first meeting of the year, I'll provide everyone with the names of those individuals who've agreed to serve. And that way we'll have a full slate of who's on the committee, and then we'll set a meeting date soon thereafter. I'd like to meet with perhaps on the second week in January, the actual day to be determined. And so I've actually put together some thoughts of how we can actually get started and what information we're going to need. And so as we go forward, we can look for more information at our first meeting of the year with the complete list of names of people who will be serving. Not to point, I named the councilman who wanted to serve. If anybody else wants to serve, you're welcome. If you just want to attend and be a part of it, you're welcome to do so. In fact, I invite you to do so without taking on any additional responsibilities. I know we all have things going on, so everyone's invited, and I'll provide you with the name of the citizens, and then we'll do that at the first meeting, and hopefully we'll meet the second week in January. Day to be determined.
That sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Any questions of Mr. Adley or comments? Thank you, Mr. Adley, for that, and look forward to getting that kicked off. Lord knows we need to be concentrating on this. We'll do the fireworks thing, and then we'll go back to you, Mr. Valley, if that's okay, and do the manual issue. Or actually, you need to help me on this too. All I'm really asking is how can we, during July the 4th, we did concentrate pretty heavily on enforcing our fireworks laws. And several people and some officers and other people who'd been around a while pointed out that years ago we used to designate the Helena River Park as a place where people could go to do their fireworks, provided they were done safely and not in a way that was harmful to anybody else. And then I think the fire department had a crew down there watching things. And so when the police enforce this law, and they can say, look, when they get the nasty comments and all the other stuff that they have to deal with over this, then they can say, look, guys, you don't have to go find a place out in the country or something. You can go down to the river park and just be safe. And that's a designated area for fireworks. I thought that was a good idea. So we're going to, January 1st is, or New Year's Eve rather, is another moment when there will be a lot of fireworks. I don't know if there'll be as many as, probably not as many as July the 4th, but it'd be a good chance to break that back in, I guess, so that next July the 4th, we would be, and have some idea of it. But that's all it was. As far as the curfew thing, I can just ask them not to enforce it for an extra hour until 1 o'clock. I don't guess we have to do that. If that's a big deal, I can just tell them, lay off until 1 a.m. Or something. But as far as designating the river park as a designated place to be able to shoot fireworks inside the city limits, Andre, that's kind of where I'm looking at you for guidance.
Well, I think what the city council would have to do is they would have to designate what areas they want, and they could do that by, I believe they could do that by resolution, because they're the policymakers. And if you want to say the river park from X hour to Y hour, I think that you all could do that as it relates to the fireworks.
These would probably be from dusk until 1 a.m. And it would be limited to the river park on the other side of the levee. Would probably be the best way to say that, I would think.
I think it's a good idea. Personally, I think that we need to have a designated spot. And if we can work with the police and fire department on it, that's perfect. I see no problem with that.
Any other discussion or comments? So Andre, we would need a resolution stating that fireworks would be allowed.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is we don't have to prepare a resolution, but as you know, a motion and a vote carry the same weight as a resolution. If the city council designates that they want to do just a brief moratorium for the hours of X date from this hour to this hour, then they have the power to do so. Well, we won't be enforcing it. Then you could do a proclamation to go with their motion, so that the citizens will know what where they can pop fireworks on that day.
So the resolution would basically be a motion to designate the Helena River Park from the hours of 5 p.m. to 5 p.m. December 31st to 1 a.m. January 1st for fireworks. For fireworks area, provided that personal safety is in handling of fireworks are followed and the fire department is on site.
That's fine. Mayor, I think the major concern that citizens gonna have was not the fireworks. At 11:58 to 12:15, 12:20, people gonna be concerned about all the firearms.
Yeah, no, you're right, and I don't think we can designate a place for that.
Now, I wasn't saying designated. I'm talking about for the enforcement. I wasn't talking about designated. I was saying that during those hours, people usually are firing off all sorts of weapons. But going back to the
really,
point
if we don't have to deal with some of the normal fireworks stuff because they're down there, that's going to free up our resources to go to the usual places and be looking for that.
Yeah, that may be so. That may be so. But as it relates to what needs to happen, if the city council so chooses, it will be tantamount to a moratorium during those hours that would authorize the citizens to do a fireworks there in the river park from, as you're in your position, you're saying 5 p.m. to 1 o'clock a.m. And the city council could do so if they so choose. And for the citizens' sake, because we don't have a written motion, you could just do a proclamation that goes along with it.
That sounds great to me. And we can also see how this works before we do it permanently next July or something.
Is
Good
the
idea.
river park, my question is the river park acceptable?
Yes.
So it's the grass is cut and all of this.
Yes. Well, if it rains, it can get muddy down there on the flat area, but if it's at least one day of dry weather, it's usually not too bad. And the road that goes down there has gravel on it now, so they won't get rutted up. Any other questions or comments? So is there a motion to set the river park, the Helena River Park, between the hours of 5 p.m. December 31st and 1 a.m. January 1st as a designated fireworks place for individual fireworks use, provided the personal safety is considered in the fire department's on scene?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Mayor. I so move.
Thank you. Ms. St. Columbia makes the motion. Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay.
let me say this, it's not appropriate at this point in time, but Andre had some terminology that I thought was important. Um, can we get that?
Andre, can you get?
Yes, but Mr. St. Columbia, will you amend your motion to say that the city council declares a moratorium from the hours of 5 p.m. on December 31st to 1 o'clock a.m. on January 1st, 2021 on fireworks, and the citizens are authorized to utilize fireworks in the Helena River Park between those hours for that day only,
Yes,
for that time frame only.
I'll amend the motion to meet that. Yes, that should be included. Yes.
I'll second that.
The motion was St. Columbia, second by Mr. Heatherly. Any other questions or comments? If not, Ms. Sandy, call the roll.
Franklin, St. Columbia,
Yes.
Crockett,
Yes.
Davis, Etherly,
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Was Miss Davis here? Okay, 4 yes, 2 absent.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think the citizens I think it's a popular move for two reasons. One, the people that don't like the fireworks, they have pets and so forth. There's no reason why people can't go down there where they'll hear it, but it won't be right next door. And it won't be as, and the other thing is it gives people an option who want to use fireworks. It gives them a legal option and a place to go where there won't be as much disruption. And it also frees up our resources to concentrate on those gunfire cases that, Mr. Valley is absolutely right. That's exactly what's gonna happen, but it'll free up our resources a little bit to concentrate on those areas. So anyway, thank you. All right, we're going to move back up the agenda, Mr. Valley, to the police procedure manual. I think that's the last thing
Okay.
for tonight.
All right. Well, I've spoken with Ms. Ramsden. I spoke with the police chief as well as with Dr. Cottams. And when the city council previously authorized and approved the manual, you gave a tentative date of January 1st for us to begin that date, for us to begin utilizing the manual. And in meeting with the chief, they've been going through training, but now we're looking for a permanent date where the manual actually becomes operative of February the 1st, 2021. And so the chief has been trying to deal with, the chief has been in cooperation with PC relating to developing testing from it. And he's given the employees of the police department the manual. They have not signed off. We still have a couple of things they need to sign off on. With Etherly, I talked to the chief about your towing revision, and he and I discussed it, and we need to work on the language so we can change that before February the 1st. The city council has previously approved your modification, if you remember. It was approved with your modification to the towing policy. And so we need to get together so we can rewrite that policy and place it in there. But what needs to happen tonight is the council is to authorize or approve the manual with its necessary corrections for its effective date to be February the 1st, 2021. Thereby, the old manual will end on January 31st, and the new manual starts in its active stage on February the 1st. And so we can have that clarity, and the chief can have a definite deadline as to when to have all of the manual signed, and we would know precisely the date for the enforcement of it and the enactment of it, and all the employees have to sign off on it before that date.
Okay. So you need a motion to that effect. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir, Mr. St. Columbia. We need the motion
Yeah, to move the date.
for the effective date. a motion of reaffirming that you've approved the policy and procedure manual of the police department, and for its effective date to be February the 1st, 2021.
Okay. I'll make that motion. I so move that the date be changed and it be permanent.
Yes, sir.
Mr. St. Columbia made a motion that we extend the effective date on the police procedure manual, policy manual, to February 1st, 2021. Is that stated correctly, Mr. Valley?
Yes, for its effective date. You're reaffirming the approval of it, and the effective date will be February 1st, 2021.
Is there a second? Is there a second to move the effective date back to February 1st from January 1st?
Second.
Mr. Everly seconds the motion made by Mr. St. Columbia. Any other discussion or questions about the motion? If not, Ms. Sandy, call the roll.
Crockett. Ford,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Crockett,
Yes.
Davis, Franklin. 4 yes, 2 absent.
Great, motion passes. All right, thank you, Mr. Valley. That's all we have on our agenda for tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn? And I want to say Merry Christmas to all of you. And 2020 we're not meeting right until 2021. Is that
No,
right,
we
Sandy?
No, you have another workshop next Tuesday night.
Next
you need
Tuesday
it.
night.
Yes, if you want it.
All right, so I guess we better talk about that before we adjourn, huh?
Please.
So what's everybody's thinking about next Tuesday night as a budget workshop?
If it's needed, I have no problem with that. It'll be the 29th, 6 o'clock.
Miss Sandy, would you mind just sending out an email and because we have 2 people not on tonight, and just do a survey and see what we get.
Yes, sir, I will.
Okay.
I move we adjourn.
Ms. St. Columbia moves adjournment. Is there a second? Anybody want to second the adjournment?
Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Amen.
I'll see y'all later.
If there's no objection to adjournment, I think we're losing a quorum anyway. So yeah, Merry Christmas to everybody, and we'll either see you Tuesday or after the first of the year. Thank y'all very much.